Hello, Chantel here. So if you've watched previous videos, then you probably know that earlier in the year I was giving some thoughts to building vision boards and just generally creating a vision, a plan for the year ahead. And today I wanted to talk to you about a concept that I came up with, and it's probably something that already exists in some books out there that I've not yet come across. And so I gave that particular concept a name myself. And the irony is that I've actually picked a word there which I have terrible problem pronunciating. In fact, it was even a running joke a number of years ago. I was working in a company and I had to do some voiceover, God knows why. I was the only foreigner and they picked me to do voiceovers for the videos. So that word is hierarchy. And the concept that I came up with is the hierarchy of values. So let me explain what I mean by this. So as I'm looking at like big dreams, etc., sort of think to myself, well, what is it that's stopping me having this today? And let's take the example of the bigger house. So I spoke with my mortgage broker, got a very fair idea how much I'd be able to borrow on a mortgage. And if my husband were to come into the equation as well, that would even increase our spending power. But essentially, even so, I know I could get the type of house that I'd like in our current neighborhood, which would afford us more space, etc. I'm like, well, the thing is, don't really want to be spending that much on a monthly basis. And I know my husband would feel even more so the same, not wanting to spend that much. So with that, it's like, oh, actually, I'm quite okay staying where we are for the time being, And I thought, well, moving house isn't the only way that we can gain more space. Maybe we could extend. Now, you don't know that, but we've got a tiny back garden. We live in a new build. The garden is really very small, but we do have a double garage, and it's actually possible for us to build above the garage. In fact, I even have planning permission to do just that. So then the only thing is, even so I have permission from the council already granted, I also thought, the thing is, all of the neighbors were against the idea, so we didn't have to appeal, it just went through. But the next door neighbor, see, their house is detached, and if I were to go ahead with the extension, then my house would then become attached to theirs. So the work I would be carrying out would be affecting the price of my house, but it would also be affecting the price of their house, not so favorably. So it just seems like, what? They're nice people and I don't really want to be doing that to them. So again, here's that hierarchy of values, not annoying the neighbors is actually more important to me than going ahead, getting the extension done and gaining more space. So I thought, well, what else can I apply that concept to in my life? And here are just a couple of examples. So one of them is, let's say, hotels. Can't really travel at the moment. It's been very limited because of COVID. But generally speaking, I probably don't think too much about spending, let's say, 300 quid or so for one night in a hotel. However, if you showed me a coat, for example, and it had a 300 £300 price tag, I probably wouldn't want to buy it. And here's another thing, I just value certain things like hotels, even so I don't get to actually keep it. I value that more than, say, an item of clothing. It definitely shows in my wardrobe, by the way. But, so again, the hierarchy of values to me, what do I value the most? And it's not just me, actually. I was thinking of, people that I've known either in my childhood, like family members or friends, more recently. And I thought, well, I remember somebody who bought a designer shirt, but didn't want to spend the extra 5 pence or 20 pence or however much it might be on purchasing a carrier bag. It wasn't a matter of not being able to afford it, just didn't really care. Wanted the shirt, didn't care about the carrier bag. And, I thought of somebody else who seems to have like a bit of a magic knack. It's kind of like, phone, looking at this and looking at that, looking at the car, looking at the watch, thinking, I'd really like that. And after a while, it just seems to materialize, and there it is in their hands, which seems fantastic. But then again, that same person I frequently hear complaining about the cost of, like everyday items, even essentials. So it's definitely somebody who values very, very much, certain luxury items, but doesn't care so much for spending money, even on essentials. And I just thought it was quite interesting looking at essentially what are spending patterns, spending beliefs, and things aren't always quite as they appear. I think that all in all, that statement I'm going to make, I think applies to a lot of people. And, if you disagree with me, that's of course absolutely fine. But I think people often will have some money and they'll be quite happy spending it on things they're interested in. But if there is a particular item or a particular service that they're not really all that interested in, then they'll be looking for not really excuses, but they'll come with statements like, I don't have the money, I can't afford it. And it's a choice. Essentially, it's a choice. So for many people, I think it comes down to wanting to spend or not wanting to spend, as the case might be. So that was just my thought. That's again what I call the hierarchy of values. It certainly helped me a lot, notably when it comes to spending. If I'm considering some items and I'm a little bit on the fence about it, I just try and think of, what do I value the most? Is this particular item going to help me with what I value? And if the answer is no, then I'm probably going to keep my money and instead spend it on something that will bring me a lot more joy and happiness. So that's it. Bye for now.